Welcome to Brew with Miss Baritone. I'm your host, Chicky Baritone, and this is my podcast. I'm gonna give it to you all black, no creamer, no sugar, no honey. So join me as I brew up some life-giving conversations with some dope people. Welcome to Brew with Miss Baritone. I am very excited about my next guest. It is Mandrill. We're gonna call him Drill through this interview. And Rodney, and they are the co-host of an awesome new podcast called Total Man.
What's right? What's up? What's cracking?
TMB?
Yes. How y'all doing?
Very well.
Great. Doing
Good.
great. It's good to be here.
So happy to have y'all on my podcast, and I'm so honored. And it's pretty dope because I'm a podcast interviewing two gentlemen who have a podcast. How about that?
We're honored. I know I'm honored.
Really honored.
I appreciate it.
Yes, and the podcast thing has just become a really, really big thing now. And I think it really kind of took off because of the pandemic. I mean, but you know, who am I, right? Once we kind of got shut down, you know, people had to find different ways to amplify their voice in the earth.
Correct.
And so podcasts have really have become very, very popular, you know. And like everything else in the world, everybody's making a sound, but every sound does not necessarily need
Amplification.
There you go, sir. There you go.
Absolutely.
So I got to start off. I met Rodney several years ago.
Yes.
And through a mutual friend. And from meeting Rodney and developing this dope friendship, Rodney then tells me about his friend Drill. Right?
Yeah.
So individually, outside of the podcast, I want to talk a little bit about what you do outside the podcast, just so people can get familiar with the voices of the podcast, because it's very interesting. You guys have names, right? You got the sword and you got the shark. So I want to ease people into this thing. So outside of the podcast, you know, you are a minister of the gospel.
Yes.
You know, you also have an awesome entrepreneurship spirit. You have a business, a landscaping business. So tell people about what you do outside of this podcast here.
Well, I am a minister of the gospel, and it has been quite a journey. And also, in ministry, it can be tough at times. We all know that.
Right.
But God has His way of maneuvering us through the trenches, through the shrubs, through the debris, the troubling waters, to put us in the position where we can serve people at the capacity where we are right now, especially through podcasting. And also I realize, as being a business owner, that having clients is much more than just having people that you serve a product to. But it's also a platform that God can use you in ministry as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's really been, it's really just a small tidbit of what my life has been. However, but this is where I am now, and I'm really grateful for being in this position.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Drill has my heart because, number one, Drill is a spoken word poet like myself.
Amen.
Shout out to the spoken word poet on the scene.
It's the way the Lord did it. He spoke everything into existence.
Come on, sir. That's right.
Come on now. Right now.
But you're a deacon.
Correct.
And tell me a little bit about some of the other things you do outside this podcast.
Outside of the podcast, I am a deacon. I am a husband and a father. I'm also a business owner. The name of my business is Hydromac, and we do all things water. Water analysis and things of that nature. That's kind of like the Clark Kent clothes that I'm able to wear on the daily outside of the podcast. And I enjoy serving. As a deacon, that's what we do. Is we serve. All of us, we're serving.
That's right.
Being able to meet people where they are has been paramount, man. And it's been awesome. As an extension of that, being someone who God speaks to exactly, and then to be able to relay that message in the spoken word form. We've written books together. And I'm happy to be his younger brother, and you know, he's the sword, but I'm the shark. And it's been wonderful. Outside of the podcast, it's extremely wonderful. It's just wonderful what God will do. Especially post-pandemic. being able to meet a need.
Yeah.
You know, and being and I'm uber thankful just to be here, you know, and for the experience. So I want to thank you.
Absolutely. I'm honored. I'm honored to have you all here. So how did you all meet? Let's hear that story.
Well, for me, it started in 2007 where I left one ministry.
Okay.
And didn't know that Full View Baptist Church existed, nor Mandrill existed.
Right.
You know, so one of the coming to Full View, one of the young men in the church that caught my eye, caught my heart was Mandrill.
Okay.
And I tell them this from time to time, you know, that, you know, if there's some people that were very, very influential when I first stepped into the church, because I was broken. I was broken and in a situation where I really didn't know what the future was and didn't even know what was ahead, really. And it was good to come to a ministry where there's some people that you really connected with.
Yeah.
You know, really showed love, and Mandrill was one of them.
Yeah.
And we've had this bond, and it just grew.
Yeah.
It just grew. And here we are,
Man,
podcasting together.
Yeah.
you never know what the Lord has up his sleeve.
You really
And you know,
don't.
the funny thing is that when I shared this with him, he was like, "Man, what do you mean? I don't even feel that." You know, well, sometimes that's how God works through you.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So with this brotherhood, y'all decide to do the podcast. So what was the inspiration behind starting this podcast? You all could have gotten together and done anything, but why a podcast?
It was out of a need that we saw. It really is birthed out of conversations that me and bro have every day.
Yeah.
And somebody else caught it and was like, "That helped me, bro.
Yeah.
That helped me." And we were like, we just call and catch up with us in the morning. And we can three-way you in. And then,
Yeah.
you know, my mom was like, y'all need to drop a seed in the ground on that. And look what the Lord has grown.
Yes.
Take a little water and a lot of Him. And
Yes.
that's where it started. I mean, the conversations that are born,
Yep.
it feels a need in the earth.
Yeah.
Because people need to be able to express, or they need to be able to verbally hear someone press the button of their issue.
Yeah.
And then the Lord will release some sort. He will meet that need. And I feel we just agents of the Lord helping them to feel a need. You know, and it's not always about church. It's about life. This
Yes.
life experience that we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way I see it.
So February of this year, you all launched this awesome podcast, Total Man. Tell me the inspiration behind these names. Why the shark? Why the sword?
Oh man, I'm gonna let you have it. You deliver sword, I tell them.
Well, right. Actually in 2014, we started the book project, 12 Kings and Their Treasure.
12 Kings and Their Treasure, because I got a copy of that book and it
Yeah.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
12 Kings telling stories. Y'all
Yes.
got to get this book. But
Shout
go
out
ahead.
to the
Yes.
Kings.
Yes.
And so we came up with those code names during that process.
Really?
Yes. Now,
Okay.
his name, I'm letting him explain this part, but with me, the sword, I'm a Blade fan, all right?
Okay.
I'm a Blade fan, and I would love to watch our Blade take his blade out and chop up the familiars, and they just disintegrate and all that old good
Yeah.
stuff. And I love his character, but I recognize how that related to me when it come to life and how God shaped and formed me. First of all, we talked about the word earlier, right?
Right.
The word is what? The sword of the spirit. And
Yes.
so I sometimes I vision myself using that sword against things that come up against me. Like sometimes I dealt with depression, dealt with unworthiness,
Yeah.
insecurity.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah.
And I just pull it out through the word of God.
Yes.
And get myself back in the position that He created me to be. So that's where the sword comes from.
I love it. All right, Shark.
Dun-dum. My great grandmother, I had a very fortunate upbringing, man. Beautiful upbringing. I was able to live in a house with my great grandmother. And I met and lived with my great grandfather. And I was coming home from football practice. It was tough.
You know, a lot of people can't say that.
A lot of people can't say that. I think it's a blessing. And my grandmother's still alive right now. We moved into my mother's house and so on. You know, and my son Drill Bit, he's able to get the benefits and the wisdom of his great grandmother, who's my grandmother. I believe God has a funny sense of humor. But I told her I was having a tough time, and my great grandmother, she goes, I said, I got injured again. I don't want to do, what's happening? And she said, baby, they can't drown a shark. You built for this. You made to do that. Don't worry about that. And it just stuck with me. I've got many names. You know, my guys in college, you know, they used to call me the mule because I carry loads and playing ball and all of that. But that stuck with me. Outside of all of that, it is, and sharks have a dark connotation, but with me it's not. It's it just lets me know that I'm where the Lord wants me to be. I'm made to do this. The only way sharks die or they drown is if they stop swimming. So, I am the shark.
I love it.
I'm like, got me on that.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's good.
So you guys, you know, we are still in the midst of a pandemic, right? You start a podcast. God gives you this vision to start a podcast, and really can't even say a middle because we don't know if we're in the middle. We might be at the end.
Yeah.
We might be still in the beginning,
Correct.
right? But in the midst of this pandemic, you have been given a vision for a podcast. What have you all seen as a result of going through this pandemic and the shutting down of the world that has challenged you in your individual walks with God on how God challenged all of us to reach people, right? So we have been accustomed to going to a building every day and worshiping, and then that now goes to the internet. We are somewhat migrating back to a building setting. But tell me your thoughts, respectively, as a minister and as a deacon. What were some of the challenges you had when you thought about how you would want people to come through, or handle being in the midst of a pandemic and really nurturing their faith?
Ooh. Want to go? Oh, I'll go. I realized that during the pandemic that how unfulfilled I was. Me being a minister, me being in the pulpit, me being behind the podium, praying for people, teaching the people, it really exposed how unfulfilled I was.
Wow.
And the reason I say that is I love church. I love the gathering. I love the teaching. I love the worship experience. But it's much more than that. And people need more than that.
Yeah.
Just as people come to be taught, to be prayed for, to be ministered to, they still need more of that experience that they have in those 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah.
They need more of that experience outside of that. I love the phrase that God gave me several years ago: everywhere you walk is a pulpit.
Yeah, that's good.
And your life is preaching a message, whether you realize it or not.
Yes.
So what is your life preaching? What is your life stating? And so by me being unfulfilled in the church, and then the podcast opening up, Dean, God is like, I'm pushing you to where I need your voice to be. Your voice is not enough in the building. I need you to go out to where people are. You look at Jesus. He spent very little time in the synagogues and more time in the marketplaces and in the streets.
Yeah.
That's where he was. And people followed him there. The Total Man podcast is designed to reach those that are out there that have the ear and the desire to be ministered to in those areas that the church doesn't always have time to get to on the Sunday morning sessions.
Yeah.
So that was the challenge.
Yeah.
I had to get frustrated first, understand what the frustration was,
Yeah.
and then allow God to use that frustration to push me to where He wanted my voice that He's using
Yeah. Yeah.
to reach others.
Yeah.
And the Total Man podcast is just not for men, it's for anyone
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
that will listen.
Let them hear.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was my challenge.
With me personally, it challenged me to, as someone who wears a lot of hats,
Yeah.
as a producer, as a writer, as an audio engineer, and all of these things, the Lord challenged me specifically to take everything that He's poured into me and pour it out. There are more highways and byways now than ever before.
Yeah.
There is the virtual highway and
Yeah.
byways.
Yeah.
There are digital highways and byways. And I think if we stay stagnant and we don't let the Lord stretch us. Shout out Pastor Matt.
Yeah.
Stretch
Yes.
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
We will miss that. And I think that during wherever we are with this pandemic,
Right.
that is what the Lord pressed upon me personally and with bruh is to get out there in that fashion. And He has specifically designed us to handle that. We can get the corners and the edges and help people, be a voice to come back or to come on. So I truly believe that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I truly believe.
Yeah. And then also want to throw this in here.
Sure, come on.
This right here is this. This is not something we read about.
We live.
What we talk about is what we have to experience.
Bruh.
And I believe once you experience something, then you're really qualified to really share.
Absolutely.
And it's done out of humility, and it's done with a desire to truly reconcile people back in the relationship with Christ. And sometimes you got to deal with those hurt places
Yeah.
to get people to where they can be everything that God created them to be.
Absolutely. Because no one's going to relate to someone. I know my pastor used to say it all the time. I'm not going to listen to anyone who's never been through nothing. Who's listening to anyone they can't relate to?
Yeah.
It's no frame of reference.
There's no frame of reference. There's no opportunity of growth.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
there's
man.
no opportunity to even be inspired to grow or change.
That is key.
If you are trying to minister to someone and you have quote unquote never been through nothing, and either you're in denial, but there is literally no one living that has never been through something.
Exactly.
It is a matter of whether you want to share it or not.
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And if God has given you the tenacity and the strength and the boldness to share,
Yeah.
and that's a discerning act in itself. And that is funny that you said that. Me and Rodney have such kindred spirits too, because as I'm mulling through my thought process on what to say, I was going to go into the fact that you all have not had guests on your podcast.
No, we haven't.
Y'all have been giving life to the people because you all have gone through so much,
Yeah.
which is powerful. You literally have touched right on
Yeah.
where I was about to go with it. And you haven't had to,
Yeah.
because you have positioned yourselves to be able to say, I want to share my testimonies alone are going to be enough content for the podcast,
Yeah.
which is pretty phenomenal, and it's brave to do that.
Yeah,
It's
I get
very humbling. It's just like the servant hearts that you both have,
Yeah.
because servants not only serve but they share.
Yes.
They share in those experiences, and so
Absolutely.
I appreciate that from
Ooh,
the
I
bottom
like
of
that.
my heart, that you all have positioned yourselves, not just one person that's a part of the podcast, but you brothers, and that's not common for men to
Yeah.
be transparent.
Oh,
To be transparent. It's a lot of men that are doing podcasts and they talking about stuff, but they ain't really talking about themselves.
no, they're not.
But your podcast has definitely been, they're not, right?
They are not. Girl, that's like rubber road.
They're not.
My goodness.
So
Man.
really from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate that. So I want to channel people to where they can be inspired and definitely experience an opportunity for their lives to change. So tell everyone how they can follow and listen out for when you all are airing your podcast. Where are you located on the net?
Actually, we are on Anchor, which is the platform for Spotify.
Yeah.
So Total Man Podcast can be found there. We also are on Apple
Nice.
Podcasts as well.
Google Podcast.
And Google Podcasts
Okay.
as well. You know, so we
Okay.
got 3 platforms. We didn't tap into all of them. We just got the ones I think where people normally would go to.
Yeah.
And so, but that's where the people can find us.
Okay.
They just go on there and subscribe to us. And then
Yeah.
every time we pop one up, guess you be notified. Hey, just give us a listen and give us some feedback.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
because
Awesome.
we're really out here trying to help.
Absolutely.
So,
So
yeah.
give them the information for, also, you have a Facebook page for the podcast
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes. We have a Facebook page, Total Man Podcast on
Total Man
Facebook.
Podcast.
And then we also have one for Instagram. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Total Man.
I got you. Got you
Yeah,
back.
Total Man Podcast on Instagram. You know. So we're that's what we are. So follow us.
Yes,
Leave
absolutely.
some comments and give us some feedback. Just say anything, and we'll, see. We'll respond to it, and then we'll go from there. you
Yeah,
know.
because you all are good about interacting with the people.
Yeah.
You have I have not followed Drill on Facebook, but I have been following you for years. And you have a lot of talk back because I feel like you throw stuff out there that hits the heart of people every time. You don't miss.
Yeah. I'm in surgeon mode. I stay in doctor mode. Probing. Oh, it hurts there. Okay, yeah, let's deal with
Y'all
that.
just don't know in the real life conversations,
Oh,
man.
my
They
goodness.
just getting the
Yeah.
sometimes that little extra oil. Because a big brother, he'd be like, bro, no, I'm like,
But even with conversation I had with Charlene, it always births something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you can talk to people and nothing really comes out, but you can talk to certain individuals and then it kind of brings the real meat out,
Yeah.
the best out of you.
God
And so
purposes stuff.
sometimes we be like, Charlene, that was that fresh manna.
That's
Yeah,
a freshman.
That's some fresh manna that just came in.
That
It just
just
got
came
baked, and it's fresh and it's out
6
there.
a.m. in the morning, brother,
Yeah.
fresh man. What is
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's
Man,
all good though. That's
this
all God.
has been awesome. Thank you so much for being a part
Oh, it's
of
awesome
the
being here.
podcast. Y'all give it up for Drill and Rodney, Total Man Podcast.
Yes,
Man,
yes.
I'm honored.